Ranger W here with the SRL B-League Draft Recap. I'm joined by two awesome people. Levo, would you like to say hi?
Good afternoon, guys. It's Levonant, a.k.a. Warfare 120. Semi-retired, but still desired. Sitting here with my friends of all time. Dude, it's been like 2.5 years since we met each other, hasn't it?
Something like that. It's been a really long time. And we're joined by someone who's a little less irrelevant, but still as awesome.
Wow.
Jayreezy.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I had to say
What's going on, gang? Good to be back. Triple tasking right now, doing homework assignments, doing a call, and playing Fortnite with our good old friend PCM. So we're going to do it. We're going to see what we can do. Make do with what we got.
The fish is playing Fortnite. Good night. PCM, you dirty fish.
Hashtag PCM Dirty Fish in the comments. We'll probably only get one comment anyway. All right, so moving on. Moving on to the first team we're going to be looking at in the Ruby division, and that is Levonant and the Norman Ninetails. First, let's talk about the name. What made you move? What decided to transition from Tulsa to Norman?
Well, as you guys know, I moved down from Tulsa to Norman, Oklahoma, which is actually where I went to college at. I moved down there for work about 4 months ago and bought a house. I am an old man now, so I did feel like it was time to, you can't really live somewhere else and be like, yeah, I'm still repping Tulsa, but I don't live there. So that's why I changed the name. And I've always had a thing for Ninetails because, have you looked at Ninetails? Have you looked at Ninetails? Exactly.
Ninetails is pretty sexy, man.
I mean, Ninetails. If Ninetails was a person.
Okay, calm down. We're going to have to make this rated R if you guys keep going on with this conversation.
Okay, stop it right now.
All right. So, anyways, Jay, let's talk a little bit about Levonant's team and what you like and what you don't like and what you think's awesome.
I like the standardness that this team brings. You got all your standard mons, standard threats. I would say you got Tapu Koko, Bikini, Como-O, like easily the most common offensive threats in this draft league, and then you got Cresselia, Mega Aglon. That's a fat core, bro. I don't know who's gonna break through that. And I mean, you have a bulky water on. He got Sweet Coon. I mean, he has all the bulk. He has all the offense he needs with Tapu Koko and Victini. I mean, this team is looking really unstoppable right now. He's got hazard removal and Don Fan and hazard setters as well. He's got the whole package, man. This is a nice looking team right here.
Exactly. I would definitely see the same thing. He has a nice Volt Turn core, Zoroark, Tapu Koko, Victini, and Articuno. Solid mons. And plus, he did what's it called? He got a few extra points by drafting Mega Aggron, a lower tier Mega, which really helped out his flesh out his picks and even helped him probably get Victini, which he probably wouldn't have gotten if he went for a tier 1. Other than that, I think this is a very bulky team. It's going to be tough to deal with because I know that Levo is familiar with quite a few of these lower tier threats in Articuno, Leafeon. I've never really seen him use Miltank, but I know he's used Crest. It's going to be scary for the rest of the B League to deal with him. Levo, give me some of your thoughts when you were drafting this team and your thoughts on the team in general.
Well, obviously, this is the first draft league I've played in a year. So it was definitely a big thing for me to really just get look over the split tiers we had, and initially I had first picks. I really didn't want to blow the first pick, and I figured Tapu Koko was just one of those that nobody could argue against me saying that it was a bad first draft pick. So that was why I initially picked him up, and once I had that one, I knew I had the wheel each time, and so the idea was wheel one get the bulk taken care of. So I picked up Crest and Suicune first one, I believe, and then I looked over and I was like, next turn I wanted to make sure I had more of the things going. So, it is this the kind of team that I basically, when I realized that I could get Mega Aggron and then utilize the split tiering that we had for everything going on, I realized that I could easily snag up the right kind of stuff because of just how we had the tier 5 situations, and both of the tier 5s that I wanted for my team to round everything out just happened to be the absolute cheapest. So Leafeon and Articuno, even if I had gotten Creagonal was actually in the 20-point segment also. But the point is that both of those Pokemon that I picked up in the tier 5 just cost absolutely nothing, and they're way, because of how I like to use them and utilize them, I knew that as long as I had my tools and everything else, I'd feel just fine. And that's what I tried to run myself out with.
Yeah, to be honest, you have really good what's it called? I want to see how you use Como because that can be used in a bunch of ways, especially since it is a Z user with it gets a decent amount of coverage, I'd say, but obviously you can't use Comonium Z. I don't believe you can use that because the Omni Boost. But it's gonna be interesting to see how you use that because that is a mon that's not really taken a lot in draft leagues, but we'll see how you work with it.
It basically came down to with Como O. As you know, in the past, I've never really been a big dragon picker, and so I really wanted to break that mold and also pick up a fighting type. I thought about just snagging Mian Chao in tier 3, but then I was like, yeah, let's take a shot in the dark, get Como O. And worst case scenario, I get a great coverage mon that I can actually really use for the Z moves.
Definitely, I agree with you. Anyways, moving on to the Indiana Salamanders, coached by Cushy, aka Cushy Wawa.
My son.
Looking at his team, man, he's just drafting some pretty good stuff, interesting stuff, I'd say in there. With Tapu Fini and Togetic having the dual fairy. Arcanine's a very good defensive mon, as you know. He lists another great Volt Switcher paired with Cobalion. Pretty good stuff there. His team's a little all over the place with the dual ground rockers. It's a good team, but I think he could have picked up some. I think he could have made a few minor changes throughout the draft process to make his team even better. What are your thoughts on this team, Jayreezy?
But when you said defensive Arcanine, the first thing that came to my mind was this team had really, really solid defensive synergy. Tapu Fini, Arcanine, and I believe Roserade. Yes, Roserade, Rick, a really solid Firewater Grass Core that's fairly bulky. Roserade has a really nice special defense. Arcanine has access to Intimidate, and we all know Tapu Fini is just a really bulky mon, really solid mon in the OU tier, and it's proven its worth in Draft League. I know people have said this thing isn't as good as it could be in Draft League, but I think it's shown its worth. And then on top of that, you got Mega Latios, which, although it's seen as an offensive mon, it's pretty bulky in itself. Crocodile, another Intimidate user. Scizor, another bulky mon. Quagsire, another bulky mon. Cobalion, although it's offensive, it's another bulky mon. I'm pretty sure that thing has base 120 defense. So
Yeah,
it's just a really bulky team in general. It's going to be hard for teams to break through this. Honestly, in my opinion, especially since a lot of these mons have access to Wish and I would say instant heal, like through synthesis and roost and whatnot. It's going to be a hard team to break through.
I agree with you on that. Leva, would you like to add your thoughts on this team, especially since I know you faced it week one? We won't spoil it, but if Leva wants to, I guess he can. Um, Go ahead and
No,
talk about this team.
it's okay. I'm not going to say anything about the match itself. Cushy's a great friend, and we always jokingly call him my son because he's so much younger than I am. But with his team, I really like his Firewater Grass Core. The only, I mean, if he would have picked up a Serena or a Leafeon or a Tangrowth or a Shaman over the Roserade, it would have been way better. But it's still a really good bulky core with the offensive turnaround and Roserade, which also gives you the poison type, which is good for the fairy killings. The biggest thing that I don't like, and I think it's going to hinder his match, his weekly plays. His two biggest, name Pokemon. When you look at his team, he does have a lot of under the radar picks. Picks that aren't going to jump out at you and go, "Oh my God!" From that first look at the roster. But he has two Pokemon that do. That's Mega Latios and Tapu Fini. The problem is that he didn't do a really good job of hiding the weaknesses of that. You know what I'm saying? He has, the Quagsire in there, which if he's playing against someone like myself who has a freeze dry user, it makes it that much harder for him to be able to utilize Finny because now he's got to cover up that weakness of the grass and cover up the weakness of the freeze dries from the Quagsire. He has the dual. He has two very high power offensive Pokemon that are actually all three of his high power offensive Pokemon, including Sneasel, if you want to add it as a fourth, are all weak to fighting attacks, or at least neutral to fighting attacks, and that's really where it gets kind of scary for him. He's got the dual fire exposure in Cobalion and Scizor. He has the Megalodios, which is, if you look at his team, he has a problem with ice right now. And if I was picking the roster out, I would have probably done just a little bit more to try and mask the weaknesses of my big name power Pokemon on that roster. So overall, though, he has the tools to be able to make a good roster. I just don't think his 1 through 11 is a bring every single week, and that's kind of what makes or breaks a roster. Can anybody look at your roster and go 1 through 11? Which one can you bring each week?
Yeah, I definitely
That's
agree with that. I agree with a lot of the points you made there. Definitely. Moving on to the Detroit Duwats, coached by Ultimate Sniper. I think that's his name. Sorry. He's drafted some Mad Power and Kieran Black, Mega Metacham, some hard AF hitters. Tapu
Yeah,
Bulu, you don't want to
he
catch him
got
with
them
the
hitters,
hammer from
boy.
that
He
thing.
got them hitters.
He has like some of the hardest physical hitters in probably the game right now. I'm just looking. I don't see a lot of special power in there though, like
Yeah,
special
he's
attack.
missing out on that.
Yeah, but we'll get into that in your analysis. But Kieran Black, it's a mixed attacker, but it really wants to run physical most of the time, maybe with ice beams scattered in there. Darmanitan, nothing hits much harder than that with 140 base attack, I believe, and I believe he gets sheer force, very hard physical hitter. Mega Metacham, pure power, enough said, and Tapu Bulu hitting really hard with the wood hammers and other coverage moves it gets, alongside Doublade setting up its SDs and whatnot, and also being his Z user, which I find kind of interesting. But we'll let Jay talk a little bit about his team and his pick of Z user Doublade. Jay, give your thoughts real quick if you don't mind.
First off, I would like to say Doublade as a Zmon is a very bad choice. And I'm not gonna trash talk it too much, but it's a bad choice in the sense that Doublade 100% of the time is gonna be running Eviolite. So I don't see the point in running Zmons when he has things like a Alolan Raichu right there. I think that's on his team. Also, too much offense. This team has way too much offense and far too little defense. I think Swampert is his only defensive mon, maybe on here, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Cryogno, which it can do things defensively, but with the ice
Hey,
typing, that's
hey,
a fairly weak type.
do not talk trash about Kriagno when Levo's in the call, man.
No, it's
No, no,
okay. He actually can in this situation, and here's the reason why I say it.
Um,
He already had Kieran Black, and it just the Kriagno pick. I mean, Kriagno does different things than Kieran Black does, but there's never ice types, as you know, are really good clutch mons that can pick up a lot of kills in draft format, but you never want to stack ice. Like if there's one type you don't want to stack, it's ice. You can stack water, you can stack psychic, you can stack fairy, maybe even dragon, but you really don't want to stack ice. And that was, I think, kind of a weird play. But Jay was right, man. Unless he wants to run, choice scarf, adamant nature every single Pokemon, every single game, I just don't. I don't get the roster. I mean, there's a lot of great Pokemon on here, mind you. TRMB, Mega Metacham, Tapu Bulu. You got the Darmanitan in the house. I mean, we've got the Pow Pow on the physical side, but we don't really have anything that's going to be a really, really hard special hitter to balance that out.
exactly.
And not to interrupt, but like he honestly doesn't even have that many mons with reliable recovery. I just look, and the only thing that has reliable recovery or a good use of recovery is Umbreon. And Umbreon granted, it is a good Wish Pass. It has good bulk, but it doesn't do anything else outside of that. So he just doesn't have anything going for him in bulk. Umbreon is easily set up fodder in most case scenarios. I mean, he just doesn't have the bulk to really hold up his team. It's just far too much offense for my liking.
I agree with that. And anyways, it's time to move on to the the next team, the Detroit Dragonites. Got two Detroits in there. Very powerful team in my opinion. I really do enjoy looking at this team, or enjoy the composition of the team. Excuse me, Clefable and Necrozma. It doesn't get much better than that when it comes to bulk. Both get reliable recovery. Both, I believe, I don't know if Necrozma gets rocks. I don't know if Jade can tell me, but Clefable obviously does get rocks. It's a solid rocker.
I think it does get rocked. I think it does.
Megalopony and Volcanion, special attackers, very powerful stuff, and he gets Tornadus for overall support. Like, just imagine he could run Tailwind on that. He can run Taunt. Defog, a very priority defog, guys. Priority defog there. He gets a U-turn. He could also just run offensive on the Tornai. It's a really good mon in League format. It goes underlooked in a lot of scenarios. Plus, he also has Yan Maga, which is very fast and underrated. I think Levo can attest to that fact that it's a good mon. And
Hmm.
also Shaman, that's my girl right there. That's, you know how Levo loves Ninetales? That's how much I love Shaman.
I get you.
Moving on
With
to Levo's analysis of this team. What do you think about
with
Drake's team?
with his team, he's got a really, really good core, and I do not want to face him. This guy just off the roster alone. Jan Mega is always amazing because you can. I love fighting. I love using Jan Mega because literally first turn protect, second turn wrecked. Because all you're waiting for is that speed boost to go off turn one, and then you just go at the hooker. Um, with Clefable and Necrozma, he's got that bulk that really he can make it functional. But not only that, his Fire, Water, Grass core, or his main mons of the Fire, Water, Grass core, complement pretty well and cover each other. With the Volcanion, with the Empoleon, with the Shaman, I mean, he's got what he needs to be able to cover around himself. The only real bad part of his Fire, Water, Grass core is that he has the Simisear on his roster, which does if I was him, I would drop that immediately and pick up like a Ghost, just to be able to, either a Ghost or a Dark type. He doesn't even have to get a good one, just so that way he just removes the Simisear from prep, to where what?
I agree that he should pick up a dark type because it helps. It absorbs dark. It absorbs, excuse me, shadow balls and dark pulses for Necrozma. But yeah, I agree with that. And it's
Exactly.
a spin blocker.
Yeah. And really, that's what I would recommend that he would do. And if he does that, then obviously his roster goes from good to really good to like fudge. I don't really want to do that. He's got the Megalop, and we all know Megalop can. What I like his roster. It's really balanced. If I was going to have to trade my roster for anyone out there, I would trade it for his because his team just. Like I said, outside of the Simisear is really easy to work with, and the Simisear is an easy fix. It really is.
I agree with you on every way. He has a decent amount of defoggers in Empoleon. I don't think Jan Mega gets defogged, but it might. Glagar and Tornai. But also, let's not forget about Kyurem, because I know it's no Kyurem Black, but it is Kyurem, and let's not forget about that. Jay, would you like to throw in some of your thoughts on stuff we missed, like Glagar and other mons on this team, or just an overall synergy?
Yeah. Well, first thing that I see when I look at this team, uh, the first two mons that stand out are Mega Lopunny and Clefable. Why? Because they bring so much simplicity, and what I mean by that is because, as we've seen in draft leagues, in and out, these are two mons that you can grab and you could just build any type of team around them. Honestly, it's so easy to build around Mega Lopunny and Clefable, and the fact that he grabbed both of them is really nice for him because he can bring any sort of play style he wants. He can bring stall, he can bring hyper offense, and I mean it's so, like I said, it's so easy to build around him because of their stats, their typings, and he has a really nice, easy to build team, and he's gonna have less stress when it comes to prep every week when he's building for teams.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Necrozma and Volcanion are very scary Z users, in my opinion, so that's something to watch out for, especially Volcania with that Bloom Doom. Just saying, guys. Anyways, moving on to the season one of the SRL D-League Championship. Pledge. Okay, come on, guys. We all know he's going to be the champion. He's literally the best battler in this. Um,
To be honest, that boy
I mean,
plays as
no,
a
no
beast.
offense to all you other great players like Levo and Spurs and Mud and just Drake and I don't know, all of you guys, but Pledge is winning this. If he doesn't, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you guys done. Maybe he got hacked. I don't know. But looking at his team, he has Manaphy and Mamoswine. Manaphy and Mamoswine, double M, M and M. Two of the best Pokemon together. I believe they were on Shmeb's season one team, which made it all the way to semis in season one, something like that. Mega Gallade, pure power as well. It's just some very powerful stuff. But I also do like the Dragonite pick because he has shown that he can use Dragonite very well, getting I believe above 20 kills. I don't remember the exact number, but getting somewhere above that number. And plus, we all know Slurpuff is there to sweep. It's gonna set up a belly drum once or twice, and it's gonna just sweep through someone's team. Also interesting to note, Manaphy and Dragonite as Z users. That's just stuff that it's it's just doesn't happen. It's gonna be insane. Jay, would you like to give your thoughts on this team?
I mean, you hit all the points right there when you said Triple M,
True.
Manaphy, Mammoth and Mega Delay. Those are he's got some strong, hard to switch in mods. We already know Mammoth Swine has no switch ins. Even if you want to count Rotom Moss, the thing gets freeze dry, so there's no switch ins to Mammoth Swine. Manaphy, Tail Glow. I mean, enough is said about Manaphy. Mega Glade, we've seen the power that thing has after a Swords Dance, what switches into it, and it has the coverage to beat all of its counters, honestly. Uh, it is just going to be a tough time for anybody who faces this team. It's just a tough team in general. I don't know what else to say about it other than that.
Yeah, one thing I do realize is he doesn't have this might come off as he might correct me in the comments or in the chat, but I'm not a huge fan of his bulk. I mean, I don't really know the special defense of any of the other mods, but I don't know if Delmice is very specially defensive. But I like Skarmory, but then I also like pairing it up with a very specially defensive mod. I don't know if that'll be Manaphy in the future, Assault Vest, Vikavolt, or maybe Delmice. But that's something we'll have to think about in the future. Anyway, give your thoughts on this team, Levo, and the Season 2 champ.
His biggest question for me going forward is his speed tiers. He only has one Pokemon above 100, and that's going to be Mega Gallade. The Manaphy and a Mamoswine obviously, have the opportunities with a Z Rain Dance or even a Choice Scarf on Swine to be in the higher speed tier. But he's going to have to really, build his bulk to really outlast opponents. So you talk about like what he would pair his Skarmory with. I would say like an Assault Vest Dragonite. I mean, because the Dragonite does eat a lot of Skarmory's natural weaknesses. That's what I would definitely look into. Just be able to pair it up, and the Dragonite would be a really good cover for the Skarmory. In most of the situations, that may sound awkward or weird because obviously both of them are going to be weak to rocks. Well, not weak to rocks. I'm sorry. You get the Dragonite that's alone is weak to rocks, and then you have a neutral under the Skarmory. But at the same time, his team is going to be built for the long haul. I don't really see him unless he really wants to in a few situations hold on for a late game sweep. He's got really three sweep type players, and then the Slurpuff is kind of that gimmick sweep. Outside of that, I mean, he's really got to work around his bulk and make use of it. The speed tier is kind of my question mark. And if I was had control of this team, I would have ditched Vikavolt for a higher speed tier electric type.
Exactly, I agree. But I'm not 100% sold on AV Dragonite. I just think Dragonite wants to run Dragonium Z, run Dragon Dance and stuff. But I mean, he can do that. I can see it coming. An Assault Vest set. Anyways, moving on to Anand's team, aka Greek Yogurt. I really do like this team with the offense. I really love Garchomp, Mega Beedrill, and Volcarona when it's set up. And plus, you can't forget about Togekiss and its Flint shenanigans. Overall, I don't really have much to say about this team. It's kind of a basic team, in my opinion. It does have a few four times weaknesses in Garchomp with the ice, um, Ferrothorn with the fire. Alolan Golem is, I believe, four times weak to ground. I mean, or yeah, ground. Volcarona is weak to rock, and Ferrothorn is weak to fire. So that's kind of something he needs to probably like think about every week. And of course, Buck is obviously weak to ground and just some stuff like that. What are your thoughts on this team, Jay?
My thoughts. This kind of all over the place in the terms of what it can do. I mean, it's just really all over the place. I don't kind of. I mean, now I will say he has some good mons that stand out individually. Like Mega Beedrill has proven to be pretty useful in draft league. Volcarona is a really nice setup sweeper. And things like Alolan Mug and Garchomp are proven threats in the tier. However, like I said, all over the place, the four times weaknesses are gonna suck because that opens up the door for a lot of teams to run hidden powers. Um, And hidden powers, they're not as used. However, they can catch teams off. I mean, they can catch opponents off guard, especially when brought on a strong enough mon. So he kind of wants to maybe find mons that can fix those 4 times weaknesses, especially ones that share common 4 times weaknesses like Garchomp in ice and Alolan Golem in ground. I mean, and Alolan Golem to me, I guess he picked it to be like a sort of fun pick, but for the likes of me, I'm not seeing it as to why he dropped it on the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Levo, your thoughts?
I really don't like the combination of Garchomp and Togekiss. Big reason why. I mean, the people always talk about the Fire, Water, Grass core. The other one is the Fairy Steel Dragon core.
The more important,
And
in my opinion.
yeah. Well, I mean, normally you're going to have a bit higher base stat total in this core, usually, or at least the opportunity for. And the Garchomp and the Mega and the Togekiss sharing the ice weakness just really isn't a big. I'm not a big fan of that. You say, well, Levo, if you have a Togekiss, you're going to have that happen. There are some dragons out there that do counteract this, but at the same time, that's kind of my take on that. I would have looked toward a different combo there, especially with the fact that Garchomp is X4 weak. That's to the ice, where it's really really a problem. My biggest question for him going forward, and I'm not aware of this. Are you guys aware if Custap Berry was free now? Or is it available?
It's not available.
It's not available.
Nope.
His team would be so much more scary to me. His team is scary, mind you, but his team would be so much more scary if Custap Berry was available, because he has 2 Custap killers on his team, in both Alolan Golem and in Dusknoir. Both of those are just really fun Custap killers if you use in the right situation.
Yeah, I agree. Can we just remind people what Custap Berry does again, if you don't mind?
Custap Berry, if you're below 25% HP, Custap, or is it? I believe it's 25%. It's either 25 or 50%. But basically, it's 25. So below 25% HP, you get priority the next, or it boosts your move by 1 stage of priority. So, like for instance, one of the reasons that makes it so dangerous is that you can use a sturdy Pokemon like Golem and be able to bust off an explosion with priority after the sturdy pops. Or you can use it with a Dusknoir, a bulky Dusknoir, which I've used many times in the past in Generation 6 leagues, and basically use it to where you bulk up that Dusknoir and have it just wear down an opponent, and then get a priority, a priority stab move off to be able to pop somebody in the face, or even a Destiny Bomb.
Interesting tech there. I could see it being really good on his team. Moving on to the Canadian and Mr.
Wait, hold on. Sorry to interrupt everybody. Unfortunately, your boy has to leave. Have to get caught up in his classwork, as I mentioned early in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and drop him the call. Later, guys, and I hope you all have a great night.
See ya, Jay.
Hey, I love you.
Adios. Anyways, moving on to Amphi's team. You see, he didn't want to talk about your team. That's why he left. All right. So looking at his team, I enjoy his core. I mean, like it's really a good core in my opinion. At least Mega Scissor and Zygarde and Sylveon on paper, that's a really solid core in my opinion. He also has a Klefki in there as a fairy type and a steel type. Sudowoodo, kind of interesting. I don't agree with it at all. But Hoopa U, there's literally almost no switch-ins. You could try to run a hidden power bug or something on it, or if you have a bug type, but it's still very hard to deal with. What are your thoughts on this team, Levo?
The only weak spot in his lineup on his cores is going to be the fire part of it with the Ninetales. I love Ninetales, but Ninetales is definitely one of the lower spots in the draft league format, and of course a core, but it's still solid pick overall. I'm most concerned about the Sudowoodo. I don't see him in draft league very often, and I feel like he could have gotten some better value out there with looking out at other things, maybe going for like a ride-on, something like that.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I don't like. I mean, I'm kind of curious about how the Klefki's going to work in there. So I know Klefki's kind of a if you're picking Klefki to be your fairy or to be your steel type, it's not really a great pick. But if you're picking it as a secondary gimmick play, then it can really work out and be deadly in league format. I'm just really curious to see how he makes it work through the season. The Rotom Wash question: Do you know? I know with Rotom Wash we almost exclusively see one set with Rotom Wash, correct? In almost all situations. Do you think he's gonna try to mix it up a lot beyond that mainstay of that one set, or he's gonna basically be locked into it?
Well, he has potential to, but other than that, I'm looking at his defaulters. I think Klefki gets default, but I can definitely see it as a defensive Will-O-Wisp. Like I think that's the set you're referring to, like a bulky defensive pivot.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I can see him bringing Scarf. Scarf maybe one week to catch someone off guard. Trick, like Clay, something. But there's not really much to do set variation with Rotom Wash. But he could make it work. I mean, it's interesting.
I'm really curious as to see just. I think he has the pivot Pokemon to be able to make the Zygarde and the Mega Scizor be that closer that they usually want to be. I'm really curious to see how it works through the long term. I will say one thing. I do like that even though he does have two X4 weaknesses for his closers in Zygarde and Mega Scizor, I do like that they are two completely different weaknesses. So that way it does kind of force the question of, well, which hidden power are you carrying? Are you carrying the right hidden power or the wrong one?
Exactly. I think his team's going to be interesting to watch out for, but he's going to get bodied by Pledge twice, so no need to worry. Anyway, moving on to Dirtmons. Looking at his pick, the one thing that really stands out to me is Mega Kangaskhan. You don't usually see it in league format. It's interesting because it can't use Seismic Toss, so it's not completely broken, but still something quite interesting. Other than that, in my opinion, everything else just looks kind of average or below average or just good. I'd say everything looks good or below. I mean, I do like Heatran, but I'm not a huge fan of it in league format. Mega Kangaskhan is one of the only monsters that really stands out to me. What are your thoughts on his team, Levanot?
I really like his team, actually. I've used Heatran and Azumarill as a combination in several seasons of different leagues. And no joke, I've used those two to be a team. And they've basically been my each time I paired those two together, they were the killers of my team. I honestly believe the Kangaskhan is overblown, in my opinion, on his roster. His Kangaskhan, I'm not going to say is not going to do bad, but it'll probably be a level off Pokemon by the end of the season. Probably a 5 kills, 5 deaths kind of thing. Where same number of kills as deaths, maybe even possibly a negative. But the real Pokemon that are going to be earning the differential for him will be the Heatran and the Azumarill, because I mean that's what I've done in the past. It works. It's very good. It's a solid. They in themselves make their own core almost, because you got a fire steel type and a water fairy type at the same time. In those two Pokemon, so they are very complementary. If he uses the Heatran and the Azumarill as closers or even as mid gamers, this could be easily those two Pokemon can have a plus 18 differential.
I can see it. I've just never dropped either one of them, but I do like the Glide Score as well. It's a very good defensive mon, especially if you don't have very many options for it on your team with ice mons, especially.
I really like also. Well, I say that if he the fact that he, the more I look at it, I do appreciate the. Me, I'm all about the ice types and finding the ice weaknesses, which is normally one of the big exposures on any draft league team.
Yeah.
The thing about the Gliscor, it's an X4 ice weakness, and so the fact that he has the Serena, he has the Azumarill, which is a freeze dry. You have the Gudra and you have the Doug trio. Just kind of curious about that. If he's going to be able to have the roster to back up the usage ability of a Gliscor, which can be a great staller.
Well, he does have Heatran to eat ice types, but that's like kind of put too much pressure on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to take it like maybe AV or something. I don't know. We'll have to see how he runs it.
Right. Well, at least the heat train and the glide score can be good switch outs because obviously heat train's X4 weak to ground, and so by going into glide score, you get a little bit of that hide of that, and then
Yeah.
of course if you
Synergy.
expect an HP ice,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, great synergy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Moving on to Jay's team. Unfortunately, Jay is not here to talk about this, but he drafted something quite unique and new in leagues. Zero Aura, is that Zerora? I hope I said that right. Um, he also has the Mega Deontay, Tyranitar, Excadrill, all in the sand. Keep in mind that when sand is up, rock type special defense is, I believe, special defense is boosted by 1.5 times. So that really benefits T-Tar and Deontay. Um, Exatu, man, it goes underrated. It gets a decent amount of it can run a decent call mindset. Excuse me. Other than that, it's kind of a very very good team in my opinion. Excel Gore to set up spike stack from the get go, very fast. Can run Final Gambit. Jellicent is just very bulky, as you know, and Dragalge is just. Can we change its name to Nuke? Because with adaptability, nothing takes Draco Meteors or Sludge Waves from that thing. Especially with Power Gem being accessible to Mega Deontay this generation. I mean, his team is looking very good, especially the Conkeldurr with the priority it gets. Rotom now getting Defog. Exatu gets Defog, I believe. Those are only two Defoggers. Yeah, other than that, it's a very good team. Not really sold on Backmortar, but what are your thoughts on this team, Lebanon?
I do like how he has a pseudo or at least a core potential for a sand team going here. It does seem like he kind of forfeited the idea halfway through the draft. But at the same time, he has at least the mons in there to be able to run that when needed, and that's pretty interesting and fun. His team. Here's the thing. I haven't ever touched Zerora or Zerora. The Fire Ghost Ultra Beast. I have no clue about it as to how it uses anything. So
That's not wait.
that's
Wait, are you talking about Zeraora?
yeah.
No, Zeraora is it's the electric
Oh, it is.
yeah,
See, I have no clue about it. I knew one of them was the release was a Fire Ghost. So I.
that's Blacephalon.
Oh, okay. So
Do you
even more.
know? So real quick, do you know what Zeraora looks like?
Yeah, I just looked. I pulled up a picture of it. So
So cool.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is a pretty cool looking. It looks like if Infernape had a color change.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean it's very fast though, and it's an electric type user.
Holy cow, 143. Yeah, why is this even legal? No, I'm just kidding. But okay, so that's pretty interesting. I'm looking at that. This is a pretty fun Pokemon. I should have drafted this. No, honestly, I had no clue about this Pokemon. There were a couple Pokemon. Remember, I haven't played draft leagues in a year, so there are several of these. The Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon new release Pokemon. I really don't even know anything about.
Yeah.
So seeing this one, I feel like this is what Xurkitree should have been. Looking over the stats, I like that.
Special attack 102.
What?
But attack is decent, and especially if it gets wild charged for stab, which
Well,
is
not only that, but you get the fake out as well, and I like that. I like that special move with the plasma fist that it actually gets. That's actually better than a wired charge. You get the 100 base power with none of the recoil damage.
and it's a physical move too.
Yeah,
Pretty good
yeah.
for one. Oh wow, let's see how he rocks this thing, and it's a Z user, so it's gonna be interesting. He does have the sand though, kind of with the Excadrill and T-Tar, so that works sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to Mudbud's team. Mud has some interesting mons here. I do love the Lando Eye because I know that was kind of banned for a little bit from leagues. Now it's allowed suddenly because I don't know, it sucks. I guess I don't know. But he has that. He has excuse me. He has Mega Venusaur. Of course, Levo knows about Mega Venusaur.
Mega Venu.
Yes, and then he has Barbaracle to set up a Shell Smash and just win games. Other than that, I'm not seeing a lot of just straight up like power on his team. I don't know if that's the right word. Because obviously Lando I can hit like a truck, but other than that, I'm not seeing much besides maybe Haxorus outs that can do it without any setup prior. Um, what are your thoughts on this team, Levo?
And don't sleep on his team. His team has the potential to be a championship team, and the reason why I can say this is because I remember which IPSL season was it that I lost in the fight in the championship match? I had Lando I and Mega Venusaur as my
Was it
two.
was it to John 2003 in the Darkrai?
Uh, yes, yeah, his Darkrai team. Yes, that was the reason why I lost. I mean, I hate to. I'm not. Let's be honest. That was the reason why his team was as good as it was, and why he was able to win it out because of the Darkrai. It's just a really there's a reason why Darkrai is not allowed in most leagues. Love you, John. But the fact is that a Mega Venusaur Lando I team is very much. Remember where we talked earlier about like, Azumarill and Heatran, great duo. Clefable Mega Lopunny, great duo. Mega Venusaur and Lando great duo. And off of those two Pokemon alone, he has what he needs to be able to go to be a championship team. I mean, there are a couple things I would look toward and be curious about, but the fact that he has the Zapdos in there just benefits him even more. And then the real question mark, in my opinion, is going to be really just, what is he going to be doing with the Snorlax and the Metagross and the Florges? That's kind of his outside of the Mega Venusaur and the Zapdos, kind of where most of his bulk on his team resides, or at least most of his bulk that's more or less bringable to most matches. So I'm really curious to see how this operates week to week.
Me too. We'll just have to see if he brings. He's probably going to value the ball trace pick just because even if it isn't running a ZU move, it can. It's always a threat, especially with the Bloom Doom it gets with Solar Beam. Yeah, I definitely get how he's gonna run the bulk. Excuse me. How is he gonna run the rest of his bulk outside of Mega Venus and Zapdos? That's gonna be interesting to note
Mm-hmm.
how well he does. Anyways, moving on to the man, the legend, Green is Mean, and his team of just awesomeness. He has Hydreigon and Fernape, Mega Manectric and Jirachi. All Vault Turners. Excuse me. Also Celebi and Staraptor. I finished too soon. All of them Vault Turn. That's just straight up power right there. A little interesting to make Primarina and Spiritomb his Z users when he has like at least 5 better Z users. Just straight up 5 better Z users. Like it's not even like 2 or 3. Hydreigon and Fernape, Nidoking, Jirachi, Celebi, and Staraptor. I think that's 6. Those 6 are just straight up better Z users than Spiritomb and Primarina. What are your thoughts on this team, Lebanon?
Well, I will say, here's the thing: is I've never been a big fan of Z moves anyway in league format. That's just my personal opinion. I know it may sound weird to you, Ranger, but I've never been a big fan of Z moves. I really wish they never invented Z moves because I just feel like it took away something from the game rather than added something to the game. And so when you say like talk about Z, putting it for the Z users, I definitely would have picked a different Z user over Primarina or Spiritomb. At least one of them be one of the marked as one of the mainstay Zmon threats. But at the same time, don't let it be a sleeper kind of thing because at the end of the day, I really feel like if your whole entire strategy for a win relies upon a Z move, then you've probably messed up. When I talk about your whole entire strategy for a win, I don't mean mid game. Mid game is different. In mid game, anything happens and you're like, oh crap, this one thing has to happen. But I'm talking about in prep situation. So I'm not as worried about it as maybe you are. His team has what it needs to operate. He has some bulk. He has some special and physical hitters, and really, I see his roster being operational and definitely one that will be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch too. See how well he does. He does have a lot of power on his team, though. We cannot deny the power, regardless of what his Z user is. It's going to be interesting. Interesting for sure. Moving on to the last team, Pledge's ult. Let's not lie, he is. So, he has some pure power on this team, in my opinion. Mega Pinsir, Mew, Steel Valley can be any type. Lando T. It's some good stuff on this team. What are your thoughts on this team, Levo?
Oof. I really do like the team. There's definitely that scary factor. I mean, with having the Lando T. I mean, Lando T. We all know, one of the most active, most used mons of all time in the OU ladder, just because of just how easily it fits into any roster, and that's what this pawn can do. I'm always nervous to draft it in league format because I feel like by drafting it, if you draft it early, it's kind of like you're trying to say you want to build your team around it rather than just add it into a team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always kind of more cautious about that. Of course, being that he's a wheel picker, he had a bit more of an opportunity to play around with it. The Mew Toxapex, in my opinion, was what I'm digging. I'm loving the Mew Toxapex combo. I'm loving the fact that he has more of those a couple of those sleeper picks in there. The Absol, the Salazzle being in the glass cannon on the roster. The Mega Pinsir obviously is a scary pick at all times to be aware of. Mega Pinsir hasn't shined and really been shining across the general league format in quite a long time. I don't know how it's done so well. If it has it done really well in the Gen 7 leagues? I mean, I know early Gen 6, it was really hot, but then all of a sudden, late Gen 6, it kind of tailed off a little bit, and it didn't even get drafted in about half the leagues we saw out there. What do you think about that, Ranger?
I think Mega Pinsir can be good if it's built around well. He does have a decent amount of removal, which is probably the number one thing. But yeah, I get what you mean. It's not a huge it's not a huge mon to be like, oh, I gotta get Mega Pinsir on my team. It's something you can wait a few rounds for. But I'm not entirely sure on the stat that you mentioned about Gen 7 viability. But I guess we'll just find out this season when the SRL season 2.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I really haven't seen paying attention much to the Gen 7's exclusive meta. So for all I know, I mean, we could look this up later on and find out that Mega Pinsir is averaging 15 kills a league and getting drafted in 80% of leagues. For all I know, I just don't know off the top of my head. Based on my knowledge, I'm a little concerned, and what I'm concerned about is that he does have, when you have a Mega Pinsir, when you have your Mega, and granted. There are two ways to play your Mega. Either you can have a support Mega or a closer Mega. The Mega Metachams, the Mega Lopunnies, the Mega Gallades, the Beedrills, the Scizors. Those are your closers. That's the Pokemon that's designed to come in late game or early game and really be the table turner.
Exactly.
Your job, if that Pokemon isn't at least +5 by the end of the season, then you've messed up. But then you also have the turn takers, the ones that are designed to get out there and actually just hold the field and take turns, eat away at turns. Those are your Mega Aggron, your Mega Blastoises, your Mega Charizard X, your Mega Latios. Those are the Pokemon that are more designed for getting out there and holding the field for multiple turns. And Mega Venusaur especially is one of those great ones in that category, one that can just sit out there for 20, 30 turns if left unchecked.
Exactly.
And the Mega Pinsir falls into that cannon status. So when you pick a cannon, you want to make sure that your cannon Mega is going to be able to flow in its team. And when you pick a cannon Mega that has a weakness to rocks, that's just where I get kind of nervous, because obviously, with oldest strategy in the book is turn one, drop rocks, and then just let it happen the rest of the game, right?
Yes.
So when you pick up that and you notice on his team one of his other big glass cannons is Salazzle. Well, that's another rock weakness. Okay, let's move on. Let's figure something else out. Oh wait, we have. What's going on? We have a problem with Rotom Heat. What? That's 3 rock weaknesses right there. I forget. Is Masquerain weak to rocks also?
Yes.
I feel like
I believe it's a flying bug.
Yeah, and so you've got these. You've got your glass. You got your your closer in the roster, the closer mega, and the closer mega is one that you bring to to maybe 75-80% of your matches,
Yeah.
and you've surrounded it with Pokemon, with several Pokemon on the roster that are going to get that are going to easily get prepared for because you're preparing for the mega.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how well he does. He just has two flying bugs and Mask Rain and Mega Pinsir. So that's a four times rock weakness twice. Rotom Heat, of course, as you mentioned. It's just gonna be interesting how he rolls with this team. Um, anyway, guys, I appreciate it. If you guys have made it this far into the video, be sure to leave a like. 10 likes will get us a week 1 recap for B-League. And as always, thank you for watching. Levo, would you like to cue the outro or say something to get us out of here?
As always, pimps, keep on battling, and if you ever need to yell at Ranger, just yell at Ranger. Go outside and yell at Ranger. On that note, peace, 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 peace.
Peace be upon you. See ya.